Hi everyone, a warm welcome to the Dare Act Conversation series powered by the Grey Matter. I hope you and your loved ones are keeping yourselves safe and healthy during these challenging times. Our guest joining today is a lawyer turned actor and voiceover artist. She started her journey as an in-house lawyer, later moving on to legal recruitment, human resources, business development, to now working full-time as a creative artist. Please allow me to invite Trupti Kulkarni. I've sent a request to Trupti and there she is. Hello Trupti, welcome to Dare Act. How are you doing?
Good, Shreya. How are you?
I'm good too. So we're very excited to hear all about your journey, exploring
Right.
various interesting professional avenues. So if you're ready, shall we begin with the first question?
Absolutely, yes.
Brilliant. So you come from a family of lawyers. Tell us who inspired you to take up an in-house role after your graduation.
Right. So, like you yourself mentioned, I come from a family of lawyers. So, my dad's a litigating lawyer himself. He's still practicing. And my brother he had worked in a law firm back then, although now he's also in an in house role. So, for me, I had seen firsthand, what the role of a litigating lawyer requires and, what it requires for you to be a law firm, to be working in a law firm, right? And for the kind of temperament that I have, the kind of person that I am, I don't know. I was somehow not sure that litigation or a law firm was something that I kind of fit into. And I guess that's where it all began. And back then, although I didn't have any of my friends or relatives who were uh, from the legal background and working in an MNC or a big corporate house, I had people who were working there, and I'd heard good things about the kind of culture that is there in house, and I guess that was a big attraction for me because the kind of person that I am, all those things matter. So back then for me, being associated with a good brand probably and having a good work-life balance, and perks that come along with working in-house. I think all that mattered to me, and it just seemed like a natural choice that in-house working is in made more sense for me. So that's how it happened.
Okay. So you worked in-house for 4 years
Yeah, I did.
before venturing into the legal recruitment space. Tell us what
Right.
led to that transition.
So I had worked in house with companies like Accenture and Honeywell before I the transition happened, and even back then for me, I was a little sure that I didn't want to be in a conventional legal role, so to say. So my roles in these organizations had been in contract management, so it had been more on the business side, and that's something that I had always enjoyed. So that 4 year stint was amazing. I loved it. The fact that you got to interact with different stakeholders and people across geographies, all that, it was very exciting, and it seemed very nice, and it gave you that push to come back to work every day, and it kept me happy for some time. But always somewhere in the back of my mind, I had this doubt, whether I did the right thing. First of all, by taking up law myself, to begin with, and secondly, whether I was in the right place, because although I enjoyed what I was doing, something seemed to be missing. Although I didn't know what it was, I couldn't figure out what was missing, and um, this question started coming in my mind once I was about 3 or 4 years into it, as to what next. Is something is missing, but what is that, and what am I supposed to do? What's the next step from here? I was unsure, and I had done my law, so I didn't want to give up my legal training. But I probably had an aptitude and the flair towards the people side, and back then I was not sure what it was. But what happened was, once I was about 4 years into the profession, and this thinking was this conflict was happening inside. My brother had suggested, I was looking for a job change, so he had asked me to get onto the website of Rainmaker back then. So he told me that they post jobs over there. So if you're looking for a job change, you should probably just go on the website and see what all postings they have. Maybe there's something that will interest you. So when I went on the website, I actually remember that I gave up my job search and I started checking out what these people do, who are they, and what kind of work do they do, who are the founders, and things like that. And somehow suddenly that made sense to me. I was so excited because I was like, wow, these people are doing something nice. And I was like, hey, this is probably what I want to do, because what the questions that I had is what these people were doing. So I said, hey, yeah, this is like, it fits perfectly. It's the bridge between what I've studied and what I want to do without giving up on either. So I remember writing on an impulse, writing out to them saying that, if you're hiring, I'm interested in joining your team. And they said at that point of time, they didn't have an opportunity. But I remember they came back to me a few months later when there was an opening at their Bangalore office. So, and again, at that point of time, I had just left Honeywell and I joined a smaller company, and I was not liking it very much there. So again, I was like, am I doing the right thing? What am I supposed to do? And out of the blue, this call comes saying, you were interested in being a part of Rainmaker. Are you still interested? And I said, of course. You've contacted me at the right time, and you're like the answer to whatever I've been asking myself. So that's how it happened. So from there, I interviewed with them and I got an offer and I joined them. So the transition to legal recruitment happened around that time.
So is my voice, is my voice still echoing at your end, Trupti?
No, it is not. You're quite clear.
I'm clear. Am I clear to everyone else? Because I'm just receiving messages saying my voice is echoing. So I'm not sure. Okay,
I can hear you perfectly.
You can hear me properly. Okay. Okay. So a big thank you to your brother for introducing me to that website, and which led to you ultimately working for over 8 years at erstwhile Rainmaker and then Vahura, taking up diverse roles, from recruiting for in-house and law firms to, then internally talent acquisition and a plethora of other roles, including you being the first women director there. So tell us some of your fond memories from that stint, and what did you discover about yourself?
So one thing I think there's no doubt that I absolutely enjoyed those 7-8 years that I was in that space, and it was a big learning experience for me. And I still say that a lot of what I am today is because a big part is played by that organization and the roles that I've played there. So one takeaway or one thing that I absolutely learned from there, and which I still apply even now wherever I work or in every dealing that I undertake, is that the consultative approach that I learned while I was in recruitment and talent management, right? So one thing we were taught is that it's not just about connecting the company or the organization to the candidate and leaving it that. Your role doesn't end there. It's much more than that. You need to understand a lot of other things go into it before you find the right fit. So you need to understand the candidate's aptitude. What kind of background do they come from? What do they want? What are their priorities? And you need, on the client side, you need to understand what is their culture. How do they work? What is their hiring culture? So once you understand this, I think that's when the right fit happens. So and we were always told that your job doesn't end at finding and just connecting people and leaving at that. You need to make sure that they stick on, because that's when you're adding value. So that's something I carry forward even now. So any role that I take up, even in the creative field that I am in right now, I don't just consider that I do my job and go. I always make sure some value add happens from my end, which is why probably people appreciate me, because I don't leave it at what is given or assigned to me. I make sure that I go a step extra, and probably, like, if there's something else that I can take on, or if there are people that I can connect them to who will help them in something that they're looking for, I'm always ready to do that. So that's a big learning that I got from there. And secondly, I think I enjoyed the people interaction a lot. So I used to love meeting new people, and I think the best part about the role was that you get to interact with different kinds of people, and you get to meet some of the best legal minds in the country, literally, right? So, and you're being a consultant to them. You're not just, they're looking to you for your advice. They're waiting to hear what you have to say, and they take you seriously. So I think that is something that I absolutely enjoyed, and something that I picked up from that role, and which I carry forward again wherever I go. And in terms of discovery, I realized that who enjoyed taking on new challenges, and I learned that you should never say no to anything. You will never know any opportunity or anything which you're asked to do. uh, you should take it on, actually, because there's always learning from everything that is given to you, and there's a reason why something comes to you, and you probably, it's up to you to figure out what you need to take away from that. So these are some of the things I probably learned from there.
So beautifully put. Thank you for sharing those.
Thank you.
Trupti, are you holding your phone by any chance, or is it put against certain?
Yeah, it is actually not. Let me just figure out. I'm not able to fix it up. I'm not sure. Can I turn this horizontal?
Give it a try. I've never tried.
No, right? No. Let me figure it out. I'll figure out some way in which I can fix it up. And yeah, I think this should be fine. Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. My voice is still echoing, but I think we'll do with it for now. Okay, so
I can hear you perfectly, so that's fine.
Okay. So while working at Vahura, you never shied away from exploring the creative field of cinema. What was your first assignment, and how did you get it?
So, incidentally, my first assignment was at Vahura itself. So, I was telling somebody the other day that in Vahura we used to have these movie making competitions, which was inter-office. So the three cities would come up with a movie that we'd make, and it was like an annual event, and we used to take it so seriously, like, it's some some Oscar level kind of a competition. So I remember that I used to thoroughly enjoy that. So, and I realized that's where my creativity kind of started flowing in. And, that aspect I started discovering, because it was not just the acting that I loved, but I kind of helped them make the script also. And then, how do you plan the scenes? All that, I was full-fledged involved into it. So I think technically that's my first assignment. But if you ask me professionally, then there was a subtitling assignment that I took up, which was so basically I connected with somebody who was looking for somebody who could subtitle their plays. It's a Kannada play, which is about an hour and a half. So he wanted somebody who was, who would translate it into English first, and then subtitle the text and give it to them. So I was not sure at that point of time why I did that, but I think I was mentioning it to you the other day. I had no idea how it's done. I knew I knew that I had the capability to translate it probably into English, because, I was confident about my language skills, but I didn't know how it works. Somehow I felt that this can give me I can get a foot into the door. If I really want to explore this. I was not sure how and why, but, I felt that I should be doing that. But actually that was true, because I took that up. The person, I still consider him as one of my mentors. I told him frankly that I'll do it for you, but I don't know how a subtitling software works. I don't know, how it's done. If you can guide me, I'll do it. And I don't know why he trusted me, but he said, I think you can do it. Let's do it together. And within the allotted time, I turned it around to him, and they were quite happy with me. They were, in fact, they came back to me with similar assignments, and he connected me to other people in the acting space. So it worked out really well for me. So that was my first technical kind of an assignment. Acting, if you ask me, then again through the same mentor, I got a television commercial role, which was my first acting in front of the camera assignment. It was a small 10 seconds television commercial, and they wanted somebody who was a little healthy to fit to play the role of the the wife for a well-known person. He's a well-known media person here in Kannada. So I don't know why, I just thought, let me try. There's no harm. I'm not going to lose anything. So I remember reaching out to the director and messaging him. And back then I didn't even have professional photos with me, and I told him that, I said, listen, I'm interested in what you're saying. I'm healthy, I'll fit the role, but I don't have any professional headshots, nothing, and I've never done anything like this before. Again, I don't know what he saw in me. He just asked me, he said, whatever pictures you have in your mobile, just send me 2 or 3 of them. So I sent it to him, and he just called me back within a day or two, and he asked me if I was ready, if I was available over the weekend. And I remember asking him for what, and he's like, for the shoot, you need to be there from morning till evening. And I said, you mean to say I'm selected? And he said, yeah, you are. That's why I'm contacting you. So it just happened as easily as that. That was my first in front of the camera.
That sounds so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm really sorry if you're hearing background noise. I live right next to the postcard. Suddenly they've decided to go on activated. Please pardon the noise for now. Okay, so you were at a fairly senior position with a backing of a strong work experience. Why quit the organization? And what did you do after that?
Like I told you, I absolutely enjoyed the stint that I had in talent management, and it's something that I really cherish even today. But I realized that as a person, I was somebody who can get complacent with things, and I also realized that I was working with one of the best organizations in terms of how they took care of their employees, and how happy you are working there. But somewhere the fear started eating into me, that what next, if I get out of here, the world is not as nice and as cushy as this place. And I also felt I was in this slightly dicey situation where neither was I a trained professional HR. I didn't come from a professional trained HR background. And I'd been so many years into this profession that if I really wanted to get back into the core legal, then it would have probably been a little difficult for me. So that, I started wondering if this is the right time to move out, before I start telling that myself that no, you shouldn't, you should just stay here. So I thought that let me take the risk and move out. But I was again, I went into a totally different role. I moved into a business development role for a education and tech startup in Bangalore. So they were a company which had designed an app which connects schools with parents. So our clients were schools, so we would help them to inculcate the app into their working process so that they can communicate with their parents. So that sounded interesting to me. It was a common connection. So I had that comfort level with them. And I always knew if I was moving out of a place like Vahura, then I would probably not join a competitor. I wanted to do something totally different. I was sure about that. So this made sense. Hence that move happened. And that's the reason why I moved out actually.
How nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. I am again very sorry for the background noise, but tell us a bit about the recent assignments that you've done in the creative field, and how has that experience been for you, and what has that experience taught you?
So, when it comes to some of the assignments that I've done in this field, most of them have been on the acting side. So, I've done television commercials, and I was fortunate enough to work with a Bangalore-based production house which was doing all these pan-India commercials and web series. So, through that, I had the opportunity of working with big names like Mr. Rajendra Gupta and Manoj Joshi sir. So in one single day, I got the opportunity to play wife to both of them in 2 different ads, which I think it's not something which comes by every day, and not something that everybody gets so early on in their career. So that's something that I've done. I've done a lot of short movies as well. Mostly in Kannada. And there's one which I'm doing, it's in the post-production stage right now, which is a futuristic short film. So it's supposed to be a movie which is in 2050. So imagining how life will be later on in the future. So that, and I'm also writing and in the process of directing a couple of short films myself. There are talks to see if I can probably take it a step further and go the feature film way, but it's too early for me. I mean, I'm still taking baby steps, so I'm not sure if that's what I should be doing right now. I've acted in a Kannada feature film which was supposed to have released a year ago, but because of the COVID situation, it's been getting postponed. But that will be my debut in the silver screen, so to say. So yeah.
Clearly, you found diversity even in the creative field, and ensure you got your hands on every possible role you could manage. That's fantastic. I think that's one of the strongest
Adding,
suits.
I also do voiceovers, so I that's also something that I do. I do voiceovers for corporate videos, documentaries, and ads, jingles, basically.
Very nice. So, Tanisha had a question about your song. In the meantime, okay, here it is.
I'm sorry.
How does she balance the work life with her?
Right. So for me, as long as this was a hobby, it worked well for me because I used to do it on the side, on weekends, and when I had the extra time, or probably when I could take a day off from work, is when I used to take up these assignments. But now that I'm full time into it, it is slightly a challenge, especially for women, I would say, because having a good support system makes a lot of difference when it comes to working in this industry, because there are no timings, and it can get a little hectic. So for me, right now I'm taking it very slow, and it helps that I'm very conscious about the kind of roles that I want to portray on screen. So I'm very sure about what I will do and what I'll not do, so that kind of eliminates all the screening happens there itself. So after all the filtering and the screening, the amount of work that comes to me is something that I can manage right now. So the good thing is that because it's not, I'm still not that big a name, thankfully. If I'm working 5 to 10 hectic days in a month, the rest of the time I'm at home. So that way I make sure that time is spent at home and with my children. And so that it's helping me keep the balance that way.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. Tell us what you love the most about being an artist.
I think uh, like I was telling you, I probably don't like being complacent, and if things get a little monotonous, I sometimes, it starts getting frustrating for me. So I think the best thing about being an artist is like every assignment that you take up is something totally new. It's a new location, it's a new team, it's a new perspective, and it's a new way of working. So each director that you work with, each team that you work with, has a different way of executing something. So that way you're also adjusting to something. Your working style also changes according to that. So I think that's the best part about being an artist. And I think it's a different high when you're in front of the camera. So when you see yourself, like I remember when my the feature film that that's supposed to release soon, it played in one of the film festivals last year, just before the lockdown happened. So I remember the the feeling of seeing yourself on the big screen for the first time. That's something very nice. So that really is something that it really excites me, and I think it's like a blank canvas for you. So the good thing is that there are no limitations for you here. You set the limitations for what you want to do, and that's the best part about it. So you get to work on your own terms, so that's nice.
I think you were meant for the creative field from the beginning.
Like, that's what a lot of people now tell me. So
and I'm so glad that better late than never. I'm so glad you took all this courage and ventured the field. You also recently directed a short film, which is up for a release. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah. So I direction was not something that I was in my pipeline, at least not so soon, because I know there are people who worked for years and who are still thinking before they can take that step towards direction, you know. But for me, I think I was fortunate because during the lockdown, I took up a course on script writing, because a lot of people were approaching me to write scripts for them because of my flair for language and, you know, the fact that I could communicate well and put it down in writing as well. A lot of people used to approach me, but I was not very sure, because there's probably a professional way and a systematic way in which you need to do it. And that is why I was hesitant. So during the lockdown, when this opportunity came up, I just grabbed it, because I thought, okay, chalo, let me do something productive. And if people are reaching out to me for this, they probably see potential in me, and I should see if I also can, you know, make use of that. What others see in me, why not see if it makes sense for me also? So I took up that course, and as a part of that course, once you finish it, you're supposed to write a full, complete script on your own. So I wrote that script, and my mentor and the person who was taking the course, he told me, now the next step for you is to direct this. So I was not very serious at that point of time. I just laughed it off and said, I'm not going to direct. I just wanted to learn how to write scripts. I'm done. I'm happy with this. So he said, but you should give it a thought. Then what happened is, as a part of this script writing course, what you're taught is that, you know, everything you see around you, every person you see around you is a potential character. Every situation you see around you is a potential story. Be a good observer, you know. So I started implementing that, you know. So I started observing people around me, small incidents which are happening, and like, hey, that can be a story, this can be a story. So when I started doing that is when I realized that, you know, when you write a script, um, writing for somebody else, what they have in mind, that's totally different. But when you write your own story, I think it makes more sense that you execute it yourself, because you have a certain vision that you have in mind while you wrote it. When you're writing it, you've already thought how it's going to look on the screen. So probably you're the right person to do justice to how you want it to look on screen. Others may not be able to, you know, implement it the same way that you've thought about it. So that's how it happened. And my first short film is called Hejjegalu, and it's in Kannada. Hejjegalu means footsteps. So basically, this again came from a casual conversation that I was having with a friend and well-wisher in the same industry. So we were sitting one day and talking, and we had this line of footwear in front of us. So we just happened to say to each other that, you know, imagine if these couples had a story to tell, you know, imagine what all they'll talk about us, or what they'll tell about us, you know, just a random comment like that. But I said, hey, that's actually a good thought, you know, imagine that slippers or footwear are telling the entire story, and they're conveying the entire life cycle of a person. So that thought stuck with me, and I went back home the same day, and within, I think, an hour or so, I wrote the entire script for that short film, and I shared it with the friend, and he said, this is great, you should probably now direct it. And so that is how it happened. He fixed the location, we fixed the team, and we just took the plunge, saying, okay, we're going to do it. And the idea is that, so this doesn't have any actors. It's a short film which does not have any actors in it. We only show footwear, and we have the voices to communicate what the characters are saying. And it's about the life of a person. So the footwear is a metaphor about how the person transitions to life, through life, and how all you leave at the end of the day is footprints in the hearts of people that you touch. So that's what the story is trying to communicate. So it's doing the rounds in short film festivals right now. So it's an official selection for about 4 international short film festivals, and it's just won the best short script screenplay at the Indo-French International Film Festival. So it's doing well.
This is so intriguing, Trupti, to be honest. I guess that's how creative people think. It's amazing, you know, from a casual conversation, here you are directing it's a 7 minutes? 7 to 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's 7 minutes and 7 seconds.
And what I understand is the lesser the time period, the more harder it is to communicate, you know, your message in that little time frame. So
absolutely. And I think that the reason why people like short films is because it's less time, right? So even me, when somebody sends me a video, I first see what is the duration of the video, and I decide whether I want to watch it or not. So if I see something is like half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm like, okay, later. I don't have that much time right now. But if I see, okay, hey, it's just 5 minutes, let me just watch it and see what it is. So I think that's the attraction about short films. And like you said, the challenge is how well you can communicate something in minimum time. So that, in fact, is a great way of storytelling, and the impact is much more than a feature film.
So, you sound so calm, confident. Like, it's like everything is so smooth. I'm just intrigued, every time you've kind of taken that daring step of, I'm going to do something different. Have you always been like this, or you've also had self-doubt? It's a very genuine question.
No, I have had self-doubt at every step. So I am that person who can be pretty hard on myself. So in fact, I always keep asking myself, the things that others see in you, why don't you see that in yourself? So that's a question I keep asking myself. So yeah, definitely. And I'm a very risk averse person. So I know for the fact that I've taken. I know it's like a contradiction for somebody who's, like from here to there, who's moved. But I am a very risk averse person. So that makes it a little more, difficult for me, because I tend to, if I'm taking a decision, I need to have it all sorted. And, I'll have to carefully weigh the pros and cons, and the pros have to always be greater than the cons. And, I would have always figured out what can possibly go wrong. And if things are going to go wrong, what is my backup plan? How am I going to counter it? So I have to have all that in place. Calculated risk, if you would say. But yeah, then the excitement factor also is there, because like I also told you, I'm a person who gets bored with things. So it has to be something new that I want to try. That the novelty of things excite me. So it's a very tricky kind of a combination, but I've learned how to balance it out. So whenever I take that step, I've already made my decision, and I've done my research and all that. So I guess always the excitement factor kind of outweighs the pros and cons bit. So it's always worked so far. Touch wood, it's worked out well for me.
It's so adorable to just hear you say that. Thank you for being so raw. Would you have any advice for lawyers and law students who may be unsure about the law?
So I guess the first thing that they should probably do is, don't put yourself in the situation that I was in, because, the 3 years, 4 years into law school, and, hey, did I take up law by mistake? Should I have taken up something else? So just before you even think of getting into a law school, just figure out why you want to do it. Why do you want to be a lawyer? So I think that'll help a lot. Once you figure out why, you'll know where you want to end up, and you'll work towards it. So I think that's very important. I'm again saying from personal experience, because that's something that I didn't do. So I'm saying that you should probably do. For me, it was just something that I took for granted, that I come from a family of lawyers. That's so law, So, but make sure that and probably you should have your writing skills and your listening skills in place, because that's going to help a lot in a profession like this. And patience, I guess, of course, in life generally, but in a profession like this, patience is something that makes a lot of difference. And also, I think probably what I'd like to say is, again, from personal experience, use your internships well, because there's so many options in law now, unlike when my father started practicing, or even when my brothers joined the profession. We have so many other options now. Even within the legal field, there are so many things that you can do apart from the conventional roles. So it's so experimentative, and such lovely ideas that people come up with, linking the profession with their passion, right? So that's something. Definitely take your internships, so that you can figure out what works for you and where your aptitude lies, so that you know that you want to take the right decision as you progress in your career. So yeah.
So one very interesting point Nisha has pointed out is, most of your opportunities have come from your network. One being of your mentor who's now, how he started to where he is now helping you with direction and whatnot. Could you throw some light on how important it is to have a strong network?
I think this is something that I learned from my stint in legal recruitment and talent management, because networking was a huge part of the role, right? And when I joined, I was probably, I loved talking to people and all that, but I was still a little awkward when it came to, like for instance, being in a conference and just going and directly introducing myself to people and, leaving my card with them. So just things like that, it was something that I was not very comfortable with, but which I learned, I realized that it was something which was very essential for me in my role there. So networking definitely, it plays a huge role. And I think I owe a lot of it to the legal profession and to the recruitment stint that I did in these organizations, because the professionalism that I carried from there makes a lot of difference. So especially in the creative field, probably somewhere that professionalism lacks, so which is why maybe like she's mentioned, those recommendations keep coming and repeated work keeps coming to me, because they see that professionalism in me. So whether it comes to keeping up timings or whether it is answering calls, if I missed something, I always get back to them, and like I said, adding more value to it. So I'm always somebody who, if they've given me just one role and said that this is your job, these are your dialogues, I don't usually leave it at that. I don't shy away from giving my suggestions. So even if it's big known names, I always, kind of, but you know what, this is what I feel. Maybe this is how it can be. Maybe this could be done. I'm not sure. You know better, but so that's something which definitely has worked in my favor in this industry. Yes, for sure.
It's indeed been your X factor. Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Trupti, for joining us, and thank you for daring to act differently. My apologies for this strange background noise and my horrible voice at this point of time. Can't do really much about it, but it was lovely talking to you, lovely hearing your story, and I'm sure we've taken our inspiration nuggets that were needed for each one of us. Keep smiling, because you have a beautiful smile, and wish you all the very best for your short film and all your future endeavors.
Thanks a lot, Shreya. Thank you so much for considering me to be a part of this. And thanks to Neha and Tanisha also. It's been wonderful interacting with you. And sorry about the initial Instagram live confusion, because like I told you, I'm not very Insta friendly. So, and don't worry about the background noise. I think my children, I've locked them away. Otherwise, probably by now you would have had that interruption also. So thanks a lot. Thank you so much for thinking of me for this.
You never know, next thing you know, you're making a short film about your live, Instagram live with the Grey Matter.
Absolutely. And I'll reach out to you guys saying that, hey, you're a part of this.
Thank you, Trutpi. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.